David is on the run. So this lesson, lesson 4, is a lonely heart. And it actually begins in a very lonely setting there in chapter 21. Saul is after him. Saul, who has become unhinged, who is vacillating from almost asking forgiveness and saying David's good, to going back to trying to kill him and back and forth. We didn't quite finish last week, but he even went so far as to prophesy, and his men prophesied. He even shed his clothing, and he appeared to again be softening his heart, but it didn't last. Saul is a distressed individual, a distressing spirit from the Lord. David has the Spirit of the Lord with him. Up to this point, David has not stumbled at all. And as Eli mentioned in his prayer, he's not perfect, and he is going to stumble. He's going to stumble in this lesson today somewhat, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But we need to go back to chapter 20 and finish where we had to stop last week, and that is with David fleeing. And he asked Jonathan a favor in chapter 20. And it was a cover-up because Saul wants to kill him. There's this big feast, this feast of the new moon. I don't know any details about that, but it was expected that he would be there on one side and Abner on the other side of Saul at this feast. And David is afraid to go, and rightfully so. So he asked Jonathan to cover for him by telling a lie, basically. We're going to talk about lying in just a minute. And what was Jonathan supposed to tell Saul? We didn't quite get here last week. We got close. Yeah, tell King Saul, by the way, whom David still respects and treats like a king, tell him that I've been called to Bethlehem for a special family sacrifice and that I can't be there. It's a 3-day feast. And he knew that maybe the first day, Saul would say, well, he don't feel good, he's sick, he's delayed or whatever. But by the second day, he's going to want to know, where is David? And remember, his motives for David being there are not good at all. So, Jonathan, is ready to tell the story, which is a story. David's in hiding. At this point, he's very lonely. He's very afraid. At this point, we have read of no sin in David's life. He's done everything right. He has done everything even to the point of respecting the man who is trying to kill him. So the feast starts. Saul misses David. And he asks the question, where is he? And Jonathan tells the story. He had to attend this family sacrifice service. He had to be there, and he couldn't be here. Did Saul buy the story? No, he did not. So something very bitter happens here. I told you this study was going to get ugly at times. And this week, Lord willing, in the next 45 minutes, we're going to read about some really ugly, sad events taking place. The first one is pretty sad right here. So look with me in chapter 20. Let's all go down to verse 30. And Rachel's going to read for us about Saul's anger and how he expressed his anger in this whole setting here. This is at the new moon feast. Okay, Rachel, beginning with verse 30.
Then Saul's anger was aroused against Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to own your shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, you shall not be established, nor your kingdom. Now therefore, send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die." And Jonathan answered Saul, his father, and said to him, "Why should he be killed? What has he done?" Then Saul cast a spear at him to kill him, by which Jonathan knew that it was determined by his father to kill David. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and ate no food the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father had treated him shamefully.
Saul is beginning to realize. He's beginning to see the handwriting on the wall. David is going to be king. I believe it becomes clearly evident about here that he sees the handwriting on the wall. He knows what's happening. All the people favor David. David has made no mistakes. He's done nothing wrong. And Jonathan, you'll recall last week, Jonathan made a plea for David. And he asked Saul, he said, what's he done? He's done nothing but good for you. He goes out and does everything you ask. He has done nothing. And Saul repented and said, he's not going to be killed. He's going to be all right. That didn't last very long at all. As we know, Saul has a very distressed spirit and he is very unhinged at this point. And so he is so angry and he wants to kill David so badly that he threatens to what? To kill his own son. To kill Jonathan. And he makes an attempt at that. Saul cast a spear. Look at verse 33. He cast a spear at him to kill him. He's already done this 3 times with David, you'll recall, and God has spared David. Remember, a central part of this study is the glory of God, the perfectness of God, and God's will and God's providence. 3 times David has escaped the spear. Now he's going to take a spear and try to kill Jonathan because he knows that Jonathan and David are knit. Their souls are knit together. They are that close. And he knows that Jonathan knows things. You had a comment, Doug?
I'm kind of wondering how much this distressed spirit on him is an influence in him, or if that's his real demeanor, fearing he's going to lose the kingdom.
It's a good question. That's a good question. Someone comment on that. How much of this is just his basic character? How much of it is God inflicting him with this distressing spirit? Why?
Yes. Seems like it's a mix of both. I don't know if it's as extreme as during the plagues when it records that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. I don't think it's that. I think this is a combination of Saul's character, easily provoked, and ultimately fulfilling God's will.
Absolutely. And God's will is at the heart of all this. But Saul's not a good man at this point. It's a combination. I think you're exactly right. It's a combination of things. He's not a good man. He proved that back in chapter 13 when he took it upon himself to offer sacrifices instead of Samuel. And then when he disobeyed God with the Amalekites, he ruined his kingdom then. I think now he's beginning to really realize things are falling apart quickly. By the way, I have rubber. I have the frame for the slingshot, the fork, and Dale brought me 2 big heavy steel balls this morning. So I don't know what's coming next week. Maybe a target to shoot at, but anyway, maybe a real sling if anybody can make one. I didn't know I was going to get all these special gifts. Okay. So things again are really bad. And so they work out, and we got to hurry here because we got to get into today's lesson. Jonathan comes to David and he says, he's upset. He wants to kill you. They had already actually worked out a signal. Before this, before what Rachel read, they had worked out a signal with 3 arrows. Someone explained that signal.
Depending on how far the arrows were shot.
It depended on how far they were shot. And it was going to be a sign of whether Saul was what or what?
For him or against him.
If he's for him or against him. And if my father is not designing to kill you, I'm going to shoot the arrows on which side of David? In the front of David, near this big rock. And so he took a lad out there with him, a servant boy, who took care of his arrows. And so after this, after what Rachel just read for us, it's obvious David's in danger. So he shoots the arrows where? Far. And he tells the lad, aren't they further? He sends the message to David. It's not good. My father wants to kill you. He didn't tell David, but my father tried to kill me. And so that's where we are today. David's lonely. David is on the run. And they meet. After the arrows are shot, they meet somewhere nearby. And they embrace. And they cry. And David more so than Jonathan. He don't know if he'll live or die. He doesn't know if he'll even see him again. So that's where we are for the Lonely Heart lesson today. I saw a hand pop up. All right, so now we're ready to go into chapter 21. Verse 1. I got a little bit of a runny nose. I don't know why, but I do. David goes to Ahimelech, the priest. Apparently Ahimelech is the high priest at this village of Nob, and apparently this is where whatever is left of the tabernacle is. And this is where the priestly services are going on. There's a lot of priests there. And apparently the Bible doesn't say here, but apparently Ahimelech is the high priest. David goes there. He has nowhere else to go. And there are a few men with him, but they're not on the scene when he gets there. And what is the expression from Ahimelech when David shows up? Fear. And he asks the question, what? Why are you here? Why are you alone? And David tells a lie. David lies and says what?
It's their own business.
I'm their own business. I'm here because Saul has sent me on a secret mission. That's what he said. On a secret mission, and there are some men nearby. He didn't say where they were. This was a lie. Does the Bible anywhere condone lying? It's not a trick question. No, the Bible nowhere condones lying. The 7 things, Proverbs 6, that God hates, 2 of them are about lying. One is God hates all liars. And the other one is God hates one who bears false witness, which is a really brutal lie. You destroy a life, you destroy people's lives, you destroy a nation with false witness. 2 things out of 7 involve lying. The Bible never condones lying. David told a lie. Why did he lie? Was it his nature? No, David wasn't a liar. He was favored by everybody. Why did he lie?
He's also afraid.
He's afraid.
Protect himself.
He's lonely. He's afraid. He's on the run.
He's hungry.
He's what?
Hungry.
He's hungry on top of all of that. Now this is a bad time, and we don't know the timeline. We don't know exactly how many days, how many hours have passed here, but this is a bad situation. And he doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't even trust the high priest to tell him the truth. He's on the run. He is lonely. He tells a lie. The Bible never condones lying. Have you ever lied?
Yes.
Don't say no.
Don't say no, because you can add that to the list, can't you? We brought up some of these things last week, and we'll quickly do it again. Sometimes we lie to protect someone. Sometimes we may do that. I even brought up the case of a killer is pursuing someone, and you know they have sought refuge in your house, in your garden, in your barn, and the killer says, "Is so-and-so here?" "Oh yeah, he's out there in the barn." You're not going to do that, are you? You're going to try to save that life by telling a what? A lie. Now, this isn't saying that situation ethics is proper and right, that the situation determines how I live my life, how I behave myself, whether I tell a lie or whether I tell the truth. There are lies all through the Bible. God never approved them. Abraham told a half lie because he was jealous and worried about his beautiful wife, Sarah. He said, "She is not my wife, she is my sister." It was a half lie because she was his half sister. Didn't make it totally right. What are some other biblical examples of lies that were told?
What Joseph's brothers told their father.
Absolutely. Well, they lied several times. But they told their father that an animal had killed him, and they covered it up. That was a lie. Did Jacob and Esau lie to their father?
They deceived, and that's a lie.
That's a lie because they deceived him. Because he was old and he couldn't tell, so they covered the skin with the hair, and you know the story. That was a lie. So sometimes lies are told to protect people. Sometimes lies are told for a very, very sinister reason. Ananias and Sapphira, did you give all? Yeah, we gave all. And they were struck dead because they lied. I wrote down a couple of other things here. Let's see. Jacob and Esau. And how many lies were told to save the Jews during the Holocaust? How many Jews were hidden in homes and people had to lie in order to save innocent people? Rahab. Rahab protected the spies by not giving them up. I think you get where I'm going here. God never condones lying, but sometimes lies are told in order to protect innocent people or for other, you might want to say decent reasons, but I think that might be a mistake to say that even. Yes, sir.
This is just to interrupt your time, and I'm sorry. But is it a lie if you tell it to your dog? The only way I used to, I could get my dog to come. I say, "You gonna go for a ride?"
Well, I used to. I had a dog named Barney that I loved, and we were out in the country, and Barney wasn't in a pen. He was never on a leash. He was a free roaming dog, a wonderful dog, by the way. But he would wake Pat and I up barking at something in the middle of the night, whether it was a coyote or dogs across the hollow or wherever. We lived out in the country on a little farm. And Barney was going to get a whipping. But when I went out on that front porch, the only way that I could whip Barney is to be real sweet. Here, come here. Come here, Barney. Come on. Hey, come up on the porch, and then I grabbed him by the hair and I beat the fire out of him so that he would stop barking and trying to send a message, but he was a stubborn dog. I never liked to be licked by a dog. I don't today. Some people do. It's okay. I don't want to be kissed by a dog. Barney was the sneakiest little thing because he knew how I felt about that, and so he would be sitting in my lap and he would try to do that, and I'd knock him back. That little rascal would sneak in a lick just like that. He would just, we're sitting there, and he would, like a frog catching a fly. But, yeah, you can lie to your dog or your horse or your pig or whatever. We don't want to take a lot of time here. David told a lie. It's not the last time he's going to tell a lie. David's fallible. He's like us. He's lonely. He's afraid. He said, "I'm here on the king's business." Other thoughts about lying?
Does God condone those type lies?
Nope. Does he understand? Yes. God, because he is perfect, and because God himself cannot lie, it's impossible for God to lie because his nature is that perfect and holy. He cannot condone lying. He may understand lying. He forgives lying and a lot of other things. Most of us, when we pray, most of the time in our prayers, I'm talking about our private prayers, maybe it's just me, but I pray more for forgiveness than anything. The Pharisees' prayer was a haughty prayer. The publican's prayer was simple: "Have mercy on me, a sinner." That's the attitude of prayer. Okay, but we're digressing here. David's hungry. Oh, I'm sorry, L.A.
So,
Are you going to muddy the water?
yes. So, we know God's providence, right?
Yes.
What of Eli? The prophecy against Eli was that his family's going to be wiped out. So providentially, this lie leads to the large majority of Eli's house being taken out.
Yes.
And at the end of David's life is basically when the end of Eli's family is finished. So, I don't know, can you say it's a providential lie?
I think you could. I think you could say in our feeble attempt to understand God's providence and not really ever seeing the big picture that God has, I think you would have to say that all of this is part of His providence. Do you agree?
Well, it seems that way.
Okay.
He's not forcing anyone.
That's right.
He is simply using his knowledge and his...
It's one thing to know, for God to know everything. It's another thing to say He's making everything happen like ants in an ant farm. You know, that's not true. Okay, so let's move on. He's hungry. Do you have anything to eat? Do you have anything to eat? How hungry are you when you ask the high priest if he's got lunch? You're hungry. No, we don't have anything. We don't even have common bread here. All we've got is holy bread. That's all we've got. What's holy bread?
set apart.
It's a set apart bread every Sabbath, baked fresh every Sabbath. 12 loaves made from fine flour. When I read about it, it made me hungry because I love bread, good bread. And so every Sabbath, this hot bread was cooked again. And it was on the golden covered table for the showbread. It was showbread. And it was in the holy place in the tabernacle. Not the most holy place where the ark was, but in the holy place, along with the candlestick and something else. But on this table were these 12 loaves of holy bread, baked fresh every Sabbath.
Are they unleavened? You know?
I don't get the impression here that it's unleavened. It sounds to me like it's loaves. That's all we got. And Ahimelech actually, maybe we overlook this, he actually suggests to David, well, I guess the holy bread will be okay if your men are what? If your men are clean. David said, we're clean. They haven't been with any women or anything. They're clean. And then David says, well, it's holy bread, but it's been taken out and hot bread has replaced it. It's still holy bread. Because who was authorized to eat the bread? The priest. And that's all. It was for the priest to eat once it was removed and replaced with hot bread. But the priest is saying, well, okay, if the men are clean, David says they're clean. He gives him the bread. He eats the showbread. He and his companions eat the holy bread. Any problem with that?
Lied. They lied.
It's another lie. Any problem with eating the showbread? Jesus didn't say David was right. Matthew chapter 12, Jesus and his disciples are being accosted for picking grain on the Sabbath. They weren't harvesting grain. They didn't have tools. They were hungry like David was, so they picked some grain and they ate it and they were accosted. You're sinning on the Sabbath day. Jesus brings up David in that context. Matthew chapter 12. It's also in Mark. He says, David, when he was hungry, ate the showbread. He doesn't say David was right. But what he is saying is, you are attacking us for picking a little grain. You're not attacking David. He ate the showbread. Because you see, David was revered highly by the Jews. And they weren't going to say he was wrong. Jesus goes on to say, it doesn't matter, I'm Lord of the Sabbath anyway. And that really got them stirred up. And then they began to plot to kill him from then on. So,
I always thought that was to imply that it was okay, what they were doing was okay.
good.
because-
That's a good thought. What was Jesus saying it was okay? Or was he saying, look what David did and you're not attacking him? I'm open to suggestions. What?
Jesus comes in heralding a new day, a new law, and really a new way of life. And he's perfecting the old law. Because the old law has instances like this,
Right.
where, you know, the little white lies, if you will, the half lies, they squeak through the cracks, and history isn't as credible as we want it to be if we really muddy the waters. And I think his point is there's something more full, more perfect that's here whenever he's speaking, but will be fulfilled on the cross.
Right.
And I think really that's his point, is while this isn't necessarily something that is good in of itself, it ultimately led down the road via the butterfly effect or whatever to the fulfillment of the new law.
Okay, so there is a meshing here. Any other thoughts about the showbread before we push on? So they get some food. I don't know how big the loaves were, but they ate it. Okay, so there is some sustaining there. And David's afraid. By the way, there's a character there who's loyal to Saul. What's his name? Doeg. And he's the chief herdsman of Saul's. He's a servant of Saul's. And he's there and he sees all this going on. And he's going to tell later. He's going to tell Saul later. He was an Edomite, which means probably Edom, descendants of Esau. You recall Jacob and Esau's descendants, the Edomites. It's about all we know about that. So Doeg, or I like to call him Dog, he has got this in his head. He's going to tell Saul a little bit later. Now, David asked if there is any weapons here. He had nothing. He was fleeing. He did not have anything. He didn't have his armor. And so Ahimelech said, what? All we've got here is what? The sword of Goliath. Isn't that interesting? He said it's over there behind the ephod. The ephod was part of their garments. It was a big vest, jacket thing that was, in some cases, had gold inlaid in it and onyx stones, and it depended on which priest was wearing it, the high priest or the other priest. The ephods were special. Behind the ephod was Saul's sword. How do you think it got there? To Nob in the tabernacle. It was Goliath's sword. We don't know how it got there, do we? But it was there. He said, this is all I got. It's over there. It's behind the ephod. It's wrapped in cloth. And David said, I'll take it. There's nothing like it. There's none other like it. And so he takes it. Now, to hurry through and try to push along here, Doeg tells Saul what's happened. And Saul is angry with Ahimelech and with the priest. Because Doeg actually told one thing that we have no evidence is true. He said that he helped David. That's true. He gave him the sword of Goliath. That's true. But he also accused to Saul that he sought God. He sought God on David's behalf. And the Bible doesn't say that he did that. And so Saul goes to Nob, or he goes near to Nob. He goes to confront Ahimelech. Actually, he asked Ahimelech to come to him. I don't know how far it was. All of this is happening in a region that's very small, smaller than Tennessee by a long shot. Probably like Middle Tennessee. But anyway, he sends for Ahimelech. Ahimelech comes and he confronts him. And I believe, David, is this where you read? Are we ready for you to read? What did I assign you? Chapter 22?
Verse 6.
Okay, beginning with verse 6. Let's look at 22, verse 6. We're not ready. We're not ready for that. Okay. These stories are long and connected, and so Saul has revenge on his mind because Doeg has told him. So he confronts Ahimelech. Now, look with me. I don't think I assigned anybody to read this, but it's interesting. I'll have to find it. Let's see. Chapter 20. Okay. I'm finding the confrontation with Ahimelech. Help me with it. I got so many things written down here. Okay, here we go. Look in chapter 22. Verse 11, let's look at that. This is the confrontation. So, verse 11 of chapter 22. So the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house. The priests who were in Nob. They all came to the king. Saul said, "Hear now, son of Ahitub." He answered, "Here I am, Lord." Then Saul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that you have given him bread," he did, "and a sword, yes, and have inquired of God for him," we have no record of that he should rise against me to lie in wait as it is this day." So Ahimelech answered, and look at the bravery, look at the courage of Ahimelech, the high priest, what he says here. This is what I wanted to read. I was supposed to assign this reading to somebody. Did I do it? Did anybody have this assigned? I don't write those things down. Okay, let's keep reading. Verse 14. So Ahimelech answered the king and said, "And who among all your servants is as faithful as David?" He's not afraid to tell Saul the truth. "Who is the king's son-in-law, who goes at your bidding and is honorable in your house?" And we've seen all this. David is good. "Did I then begin to inquire of God for him?" In other words, did I need to inquire for him? "Far be it from me. Let not the king impute anything to his servant or any in the house of my father, for your servant knew nothing of all this, little or much." That's courageous. This is the king and his men. Saul decides to do what? Kill them all. This is where the story gets really ugly.
9 minutes.
9 minutes. That's not enough. So, he commands his guards, his royal guards, kill him. Kill Ahimelech. And they would not. They said, we're not going to do this. This is the high priest. These are the priests of God. We're in the presence of the holy tabernacle here. And who says he'll do it? Well, Saul knows that he'll do it, so he asked him, who is it? Doeg. He said, "Doeg, you do it." Killed Ahimelech, killed 85 priests, killed all the women and children in Nob, and even the animals. They utterly destroyed Nob, and one priest got away, Abiathar. And Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, is going to be in our study for a while, maybe all the way to the end. So that's what happened. Now, you say, how did one man do all that? Doeg probably didn't do it single-handedly. He got people to help him. Maybe he did it by himself. The Bible doesn't say, but 85 priests fell dead.
Well, apparently they didn't have any weapons.
They didn't have any way to stop him except they could have run away. I think Doeg got accomplices to accomplish this, but he was the ringleader of it. And so David feels really bad. Look at the end of chapter 22. David really blames himself. If he hadn't gone there, eaten the showbread, gotten the sword, none of this would have happened to the priest. So he feels he is very, very grieved about it. He feels very guilty. Now, chapter 23, we have about 7 minutes left. The city of Keilah, which still exists today, it's in the desert area outside, not far from Jerusalem, still there. It's an old city. It's a city that had gates around it. It was kind of an enclosed city, and they were being besieged by the Philistines. David prays to God, and he says, "Should I go?" God says, "Yes, go." And so that he goes to Keilah with his men, and at this point he has a following of about 400 men who are disgruntled at Saul because Saul has taken so much from them and all, and that's another detail we don't have time to cover. So he has a group, he has a following at this point in our story. And they go to Keilah, and they're very successful there against the Philistines. But the people of Keilah, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, the people of Keilah are going to turn on David. David asked God, Are the people going to tell Saul about me? And God said, yes. David asked, are they going to turn me over? God said, yes. So God saves David and he flees the city. And by the way, another story that we had to skip over, which is very interesting. When David fled after eating the showbread and all, when he fled, he goes, of all places, to the city of Gath. And I am assuming that he had nowhere else to go. So he goes to the city of Gath. That's whose hometown? Not Saul, but Goliath's hometown. And Achish, the king of Gath, David's afraid of him. But he goes there. I suppose he got kind of trapped being there. And the men of Achish said, that's David. They even refer to him as the one who's going to be king. So the word's out. David is going to be king. And so David's in a real mess. He's in a bad place. So what does he do? We're going to run out of time. He acts what?
Crazy.
Crazy. How crazy does he act?
Enough to fool the king.
Enough to fool the king. He scratches and claws on the gate. And he drools into his beard like a crazy man. And so when the men tell Achish, the king, well, this is David, and he said, that's not David. Look, that man's insane. Why are you bothering me with this insane fellow? I don't have any time for this. So David escaped. That was prior to what we just talked about, the death. Now, Keilah, God saves him there. Let's quickly go over, our time's running out. Chapter 23. We're going to have to finish this next week. David goes to the stronghold of Adullam. And he's hiding out there with these 400 men. And the family comes to visit. The father and the brothers come. And they're together. We don't know how long in this area, in this wilderness, this area of the stronghold. David asks the king of Moab to protect his parents. Again, there's so many details here that we don't have. We've got to get to David's death, we're going to have to just move fast. So the Ziphites in this wilderness of Ziph, they turn on David. They turn him in to Saul. And Saul asks them questions about him. And Saul makes a comment that's very interesting. Look at chapter 23, verse 21. He's thankful that they're turning in David. Saul said, blessed are you of the Lord, for you have compassion on me. Please go and find out for sure, and look at this, and see the place where his hideout is, and who has seen him there. For, this is what I wanted to read, I am told he is very what? Crafty. I'm told he's very crafty. So if we're going to catch him, I've got to know exactly where he is. How much time?
You got a couple of minutes, but before we quit, if you don't care to read verse 17, because I think that's very important.
Verse 17 in chapter 23.
Yes.
All right. Everybody look up to verse 17. I hate to have to go this fast. Small print, I'm trying to find verse 17. And he said to him, do not fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Even my father Saul knows that.
I mean, Jonathan's, he's either prophesying or he just sees it coming.
I think had Jonathan lived, he would have been a key figure in David's kingdom. Don't you? I think he would have been. And he knows what's happening. How much prophesying he's able to do, I don't know. In this wilderness area, David is saved again. Interestingly enough, he is saved by the Philistines. Because the Philistines are attacking, and Saul and all his soldiers have to go back and fight the Philistines. So in this wilderness of Maon, David is free again. Now, next week, again, what we'll be doing is picking up the pieces from one week and carrying it over, because we can't skip the story of the cave in Engedi and what happens there when David had a chance to end it all. He had a chance to kill Saul in this cave, which, by the way, is still there. I'm told you can still see the cave. That would really be special, wouldn't it? to see the cave where that happened. Okay, time's up. We'll pick up chapter 24 next time.